Welcome to another edition of the Bobcast, Thanksgiving week edition. And we have a condensed version of the Bobcast for you. We're talking hardwood and swimming, and we're kicking things off with the men's basketball team. We're joined by head coach Sean Brown. And, coach, tough loss to West Virginia Wesleyan on Saturday, 85-73 final score. What were your overall takeaways?
Well, first off, I thought we got they just were a lot more physical than we were. They executed better than we did, and they played a lot cleaner game than we did. I think we gave up 19 offensive rebounds, which is very uncharacteristic of our team. But it's something that we got to clean up.
Now, looking at the positives, Daniel Alexander, he scored his 1,000th point midway through the second half. What has he meant to the program over the last four seasons?
Well, Daniel's grown leaps and bounds since uh, walking through the doors here. Although I wasn't here, I've always had a close connection to Frostburg, even when I was at Pitt Bradford, coaching the women's and men's team. So I've watched Daniel grow from afar. Then when I got here to coach him, he was even more than what everybody talked about. So I knew he was a kid. He was a kid who we can get in the gym and continue to groom and make him the focal point of what we do now. He's grown leaps and bounds. He's grown to an all-conference player, hands down. And we really appreciate what Mr. Alexander bring to the table. He's bought into our coaching philosophy. I know, last year everything was new for him, and change isn't always easy, especially for young guys, young men, I should say. But he kind of listened to what we said, and he bought into what we said and what we thought we could do and the direction we wanted to go in. And you know, I think the world of Daniel, and he deserves everything he gets.
Now, West Virginia Wesleyan, you mentioned they were very physical in the match or in the game. They also came out firing early on, and throughout most of the game, you guys had to play catch up, taking out that lead that you had midway through the first half. How were you able to adjust to the breakneck speed and the physicality as the game went on?
Well, we wanted to speed the game up a little bit, and they were prepared for it. Um, Not that we thought they wouldn't be, but we thought that that could be an advantage for us. We've had quite a few guys playing well at the same time, and we've seen some things at practice what made us think that we could play fast, and we thought that we could have an advantage. At times during the game, it seemed like we had them a little bit tired. Their coach did a great job of using the timeouts and adjusting. Um, and it just didn't work out for us. We cut the lead several times um, to 2, 3 points, and we just couldn't get over the hump. Um, but we're right there. They were picked sixth or seventh in the league, and we were picked ninth. So we feel like we're right there. They pulled away late at the end when we had the foul and the game kind of got out of hand in the last minute of the game. But we were again, man, just like the Shepherd game, we were right there. We were right in it, and it was a winnable game, and it was disappointing.
And you were asked this during the broadcast, but throughout the game, you had mass substitutions, four or five guys coming in almost every single time that you subbed in.
Exactly.
Was that kind of um, your way of counterbalancing what West Virginia Wesleyan brought to the table?
It was, and on that's a good question. It really was. That's number one, and second, again, we saw some things at practice what made us, guys groups at groups playing together, playing well together, and we saw things at practice that made us think that we could possibly look at playing that way, and I think for the most part it worked out. We got to see what we wanted to see, and but secondly, yeah, we did a lot of that was to balance out what West Virginia Wesleyan had to offer because they're a really good three-point shooting team. Although they didn't have any wins, we watched all five of their games, and they were all closely contested games. The last game against AB before us, they were winning the whole game until the very end. They're really really gritty team. They have a senior number 20 who's really awesome, 6'9", lefty who can do it all. He's been in their program for some time, and he's really got it going right now. So and they got quite a few other players. They have the local kid Clay, who's really good, had a really good game for them. A couple of other nice guards, 2-point guards. They've starting 2-point guards, but they can shoot the ball. They can really shoot the ball. They can really get you turned up. They can get you out of control, as well as they can slow it down and run their stuff. And their big man showed that he's an animal inside.
Will we see these 4 to 5 player substitutions tomorrow against Davis and Elkins?
We may, we may. We'll meet today, and we'll deliberate. We'll talk about some things, some game plan and things, just to kind of put some finishing touches on our Tuesday's matchups and our Tuesday game plan. I don't want to reveal too much, but I'll say we might. There's a good chance that you'll see that.
Fair enough. Offensively, in the West Virginia Wesleyan game, the first half was a little bit of a struggle, scoring just 31 points. What can be done to adjust going forward?
Well, we need to get the ball inside. We need to get the ball inside more. Um, we rely a lot on our guard play, which most college teams do here in the 2019, 2020s. But the really good teams can score inside. They can get the ball inside when they need to and get a basket and or get fouled and make free throws. That's still been has been a tough thing for us, missing free throws. We missed a ton of free throws again, especially in crunch time. Um, just this Saturday, and that's if we can clean up one or two things, we're a totally different team. But that's just kind of where we are right now.
And I was looking at some positives as well. Against Shepherd, had season lows in points off turnovers, second chance points, fast breaks, and bench points. Going against West Virginia Wesleyan, he had season highs in 3 of those 4 categories. What led to the big difference?
Well, we not only did we watch a lot of film, we analyzed stats and a lot of data, and we realized what you just said to us, that we were season lows in all 4 of those, and that was a point of emphasis to try to get up in those three, and we did. So we're learning, man. We're a young coaching staff. We're a young team. First year in Division 2. We feel like we got a feel for things as coaches and where we want to go. And we can think we got an idea of how we can win with the way this team's constructed. We just got to get it done. But yeah, that to answer your question, we saw that we were season lows in all 4 of those stats, and we wanted to focus on 3 of them, and those are the 3 we focused on.
And now that you've gotten a taste of the frantic pace of the MEC team, West Virginia Wesleyan, not one of the more well-known offenses in the
Hmm.
MEC, but putting up 85 and, like you said, really good three-point shooting team. They had a lot of good key players inside. Now that you've gotten a taste of that, how will tempo kind of adjust going into practices?
Well, our practice tempo is pretty fast anyway. Um, we feel like we dialed it back once the game started. We actually hadn't been playing the way I like to play. I could honestly say we're not playing fast enough. We're not playing aggressive enough. A big part of that is my coaching. A big part of that is coaching. I was worried that we'd be playing too fast. We'd be out of control. And those scrimmages that we played, I felt like we were playing out of control. Although we were playing tightly contested games, I didn't like how loose our guys were. So I dialed it back a little bit. So we're gonna let we're gonna let those guys play. We're gonna let those guys run, and we're going to play a lot faster. We did know coming in that we were entering the highest scoring conference in the league in the country and in all of D2. And there's some things defensively that we have to do to counter some of that scoring. But we also we got to put the ball in the hole, and we've got to play faster, and we will play faster, and we'll figure this thing out.
And someone who hasn't gotten a lot of minutes but played his first significant minutes against West Virginia Wesleyan, Lawrence Pettis. He scored 14 points in 14 minutes. How has he been able to adjust throughout his career? And will we be seeing more of Pettis getting back to full strength, not only tomorrow, but as the conference schedule winds down?
Well, as the conference, well, that question that's twofold. Lawrence has been a staple of this program ever since he transferred in. He started out as a Division II player, so he understands the landscape. He knows what he's up against, and he's been in and out of the lineup this year for multiple reasons. But he's getting back. He's getting back to full strength. He's feeling positive with the coaching staff is feeling positive about Lawrence, and hopefully those his confidence grow, his minutes grow, and his leadership will grow. Teach some of these young guys the game of basketball. Lawrence has by far the highest basketball IQ on the basketball team, and it's not even close. We're hoping that he continue to school these young guys. Jalen Johnson, who we're really high on Jalen, and he Lawrence has put his arm around him quite a bit in the preseason and early on this season, and Jalen is growing. His game's grown leaps and bounds from the first day he walked in here. And so those are some of the things that Lawrence could provide. We already know what he could provide on the floor. He's quick. He can shoot the ball. He can get to the basket. He can distribute. We know all those things he can do. We hope he keeps growing as a as an overall player and as a leader and as a young man.
Looking ahead to Davis and Elkins tomorrow night, they're another team that loves to shoot the three. They're top three in the conference
Hmm.
in three-pointers made, and they're coming in hot after getting a big win over Fairmont State on Saturday. What will be the key to defeating the Senators?
Well, we got to defend that 3-point line. Um, going into the Shepherd game, we said the same thing. We knew what they were going to do, and we started out accordingly. We did well defending the 3-point line early. We were very clean on offense. We got what we wanted. Although we missed a lot of shots that game early, we still had a pretty sizable lead. But once we stopped defending that 3-point line, the game flipped very quickly. That's got to be number one. We got to defend the 3-point line. Number two, take care of business on the rebounding, and we got to hold to one shot. Although this team doesn't, the stats doesn't say they do a great job offensive rebounding. We need to make sure that we keep it that way. Hold to one shot per possession, and I think we'll be fine.
Anything else you want to add?
Well, we're again we're disappointed in where we've started, and we're disappointed in this last loss. But we're definitely not dejected. We're definitely not going to lay down or quit. We know that we have 21 more conference games left. Our guys they're fired up. We had a really good practice last night. I'm going to have another good practice today. I'm assuming the energy was high. Guys feeling good about themselves. Guys competing. We as coaches, we're watching tape. We're game planning. We're bouncing ideas around. This season is far from lost or far from over. We still have talented guys in that gym, guys that we trust, guys that we believe in, and we can get this turned around pretty quickly.
All right, Coach. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Back on the Bobcast, now on the women's side of the hardwood, women's basketball losses to Shepherd and opened up conference play with a tight loss to West Virginia Wesleyan. There were 19 lead changes in that game, so that kind of told the story of how close that game was. Coach Kerry Saunders joining us. What were your overall takeaways?
Well, this week, obviously, coming out with two losses is never fun. But I think as we continue to grow through each week, we start to build more chemistry and we start to understand just how good we can be. And I think it's just a matter of getting that first win and then moving forward from there. We always take away things from wins or losses. And I think this week, hanging tough with a Shepherd team that's undefeated, we were up late in that game and then hanging tough with, our first conference game. I think every game that we've played, we felt like we could win. So I think, that's a positive. We never walk away and say like, well, we just got blown out. We've got to take those positives and keep moving forward.
What were the main positives that you took away from Shepherd and West Virginia Wesleyan, just outside of the competing aspect?
I think, certain people played well in certain games. That Shepherd game, I think we played really good defense, and that also got our offense going. Jada and Amanda continue to dominate in the paint in both of those games. So I think that's obviously something that we continue to go to. And now I think it's a matter of developing our guards to bring just as strong as an outside presence as we do of an inside presence. I think, talking to some of our returners, it's a way different team and a way different feel from last year. Last year we could knock down any shot. We were definitely a perimeter heavy team. And now this year we've kind of got to re-identify ourselves. So, in both of those games, obviously those two in the paint did a really great job, but I think defensively, we're coming along really well too.
And defensively, that's been the strong suit, like you mentioned. Currently leading the MEC in scoring defense at, I believe it's 61 points given up on average, just off the top of my head.
hmm
What's been the key defensively to put up such stellar numbers?
Well, I think the way that basketball is turning, and I think from a cultural standpoint, is it's so focused around offense. You look at every level, and it's all about what kids can do offensively. And within this program, it's what can you do defensively. Um, that's how you, I think that's how you win games, and that's how you're successful. You can go out and score and trade baskets all night long, but at the end of the day, it's who gets stops. And I think everyone thinks about it's who gets the last bucket. And I kind of coach and I think a little bit differently of how many stops can we get. And we went up by I think 4 with a few minutes to go in the Westland game, and I someone was on the free throw line, and I called the whole team over and I said, we're holding them to X amount of points for the rest of this game. Like that's our mind frame. It's not about like scoring. It's about okay, we have this small lead. How can we maintain it from the defensive standpoint? Not keep obviously we want to keep scoring, but you've got to do it on both sides. So, yeah, we focus a lot of attention on defense.
While the defense has been very strong, the offense has struggled at times.
Mhm.
The offense in the first 5 games, excluding the Mount St. Mary's exhibition,
Mhm.
has scored under 50 points twice.
Right.
How can the offense pick up what the defense has been able to do?
Yeah, I mean, part of that is just finding our chemistry within each other. Like I said, you can't really compare last year's team to this year's team because we're completely different. In last year's team, we were putting up a lot of points. In this year's team, we're kind of struggling to find the rim and find the basket. It's just a matter of focusing in on the offensive side of the floor and believing that we can do it. I think we have a lot of belief on the defensive side of the floor, but right now we don't have an identity besides get the ball inside, to score. So, in practice, we've definitely are working and will work more towards offense. Yesterday, we just shot literally for the entire hour and a half, and it's just developing that confidence. I told some of my kids that were standing around is like you've just got to believe that you're a good shooter, and that's part of the battle. It's just believing that you're going to put it in. So we've just got to develop that from an outside. We've got to have an inside in outside presence in order to score, and right now we only have an inside.
When we talked 3 weeks ago, you mentioned that the goal was to compete with the bottom half of the Mountain East and then work your way to the top.
hmm
Um, First game against an MEC team, West Virginia Wesleyan, not necessarily in the bottom, but they're in the lower tier, kind of in
hmm
the sixth, seventh, eighth place spot.
hmm
And knowing the game was so back and forth, how does that gain confidence, backing up your claim from 3 weeks ago?
I mean, I think it does give us confidence. You know, we come into the locker room after these losses, and that's what we talk about is we talk about just getting over that hump. Like, we just need to get a win. And I think once we get that win, I think the team itself is going to gain so much more confidence. We know that we can compete because also the blueprint of this team is that you never give up on any given night. So it definitely gives us confidence. Our goal is to still make playoffs, and we're still fighting for that. We're one game in, so it's just a matter of focusing towards that next game and going out and getting that first win.
Amanda Emery and Jada Holland have also done a very good job commanding the paint. Against Wesleyan, the paint or points in the paint, 65% of your points came from the paint.
Hmm.
What's been the key to not only Emery's success but Holland's?
You know, we're obviously putting a lot of emphasis on getting the ball inside to them this year because that's our strongest asset right now offensively, and I think most consistent asset. But they're both physical, and most of the teams that we match up against right now don't have two people that could guard them. We also put a lot of emphasis on them building that chemistry. We do a lot of high-low action, and so you know they're just working. They work, they want the ball, they demand the ball, and our guards get it to them. So I think that's a testament to them that they have confidence. I mean, at the end of the game, we drew up two options, one for a three-pointer and one for one of them to slip to the basket and try and get a bucket. And Jada did just that. It just rimmed out. So they just have that confidence that they want the ball and they know that they can be successful down there and they don't mind banging. And I think that's something that we're finding that some of these teams don't really do is that we just bang you and bang you and bang you all night. And they've just got to be able to withstand that. And we dominate that. And that's kind of the testament to how many points we have in the paint each night.
Mentioned the players in the paint because tomorrow night against Davis and Elkins,
Hmm.
it will be a battle of the bigs.
Hmm.
Holland and Emery will have a pretty good matchup against Davis and Elkins. Jemiah Johnson, averaging about 15 points a game, 10 rebounds a game. What will they have to do, eh, them being Emery and Holland, in order to be successful and to get that elusive first win tomorrow night?
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely putting up big numbers, but again, it's only her, and we've got the two of them plus, some kids off the bench that can bang too. So, today's goal is to figure out one, how to limit her touches and how to limit her points, which I think we can do, because we've got a lot of horses to throw at her, and she's only one for them. Not that, there's other kids on that team that obviously can produce, but when you look at her as one of their leading scorers, I think we'll do an okay job of trying to shut her down in a way because those kids also take that as a challenge. But other than that, we just have to come out and we got to play hard just like we do every single night and trust that our shots will fall and make good plays and make big plays. And, I think that we can come out with a win right before the holiday, which would be really nice.
And Davis and Elkins, excuse me, they've been their weak point is defense, especially in defending the perimeter shot, which could open up players like Victoria Diggs and your
Mhm.
other sharpshooters. How do you view that matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is a great opportunity for our shooters to gain that confidence. And I think it's also them having the confidence to pull. I think sometimes we're a little trigger shy because we have been so focused on getting into the paint, and they've got to know when they've got their shot, they've got to shoot it. So, that's another thing that, everything that we'll talk about later tonight in practice and in film, tonight about what we can do to expose their weaknesses as well as, what we can do to on the offensive side of the floor as well.
And Sunday as well, non-conference game against
Mhm.
Seton Hill. Not to overlook Davis and Elkins
Mhm.
by any stretch of the imagination, but what kind of challenge does Seton Hill provide to the table?
Oh, it's a big challenge. That's a really good team. So, like I said, our non-conference schedule, it wasn't easy by any stretch. But that's kind of, I know some of them is resulting in losses, and some people are like, why don't you schedule easier teams? But that's not really me. I want to go out and I want to prepare our team for the conference because that's ultimately what matters. Yes, it's nice to get some confidence, through non-conference, but we're going to be battle tested and we're going to be ready. And I think everyone's looking at these scores, that we're hanging with everybody, and it's just a matter of us getting over that hump. So Seton Hill is going to be a really good test coming off of a break, but just to get us going again before we hit conference again.
Anything else you want to add?
No, just I'm proud of our team. I know we haven't been winning, but we're fighting, we're gritting, we still show up at practice with a smile on our face, and I think that that's a testament to them. So
All right, Coach, thank you for your time.
thank you.
Back on the Bobcast. Now we're hitting the pools with the swimming teams as head coach Brian Christensen joins us after taking part in the Randolph-Macon Invitational down in Virginia. Coach, what were your overall takeaways?
Well, Brandon, it's great to be here. I like to think of this as a half year, like half megacast. We do our hour-long Bobcat megacast. You're good for 25, 30 minutes here, right?
I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine with that.
No, I don't think we'll go that long. We'll kind of see how the how the winds take us.
Whatever works with you
Um,
works with me.
But we did good. It was a really impressive meet. It's a nice validation of the work that we've done so far in the fall. We were swimming really fast. We placed well, and it was exciting to see.
Certainly. And the men, well, they had numerous top 10 finishes, 12 to be exact.
Yeah.
The women didn't have a top 10 finish, but they had several top 20. What's been the difference this year looking at the men's side first and foremost?
I think that there's not any major difference in attitude or effort. I think the men, I think last year when we had, some of our other top tier women like Maddie Weinberger, Daisy DeMonte, some of these, Emily Turner, some of these graduates, I think we would have been in there. But, they're kind of gone and we're just trying to replace them.
For sure. And who are some swimmers that you have expected to step up and kind of did that over the weekend?
Yeah, we had a lot of pretty good athletes getting into kind of a higher tier than they had been before. Looking at our top 10 lists from which I think the great Andy Stanko, if he's listening there in Radio Land.
He probably is.
He actually definitely is. I think he keeps up to date on these. For those viewers at home, Andy was for long-time Bobcast swimming viewers. Andy did a lot of interviews last year. He put together a top 10 all-time program list, which is pretty cool because a lot of our kids, they might not be getting team records, but maybe they're getting top 10. Maybe they're getting second, third, fourth all-time, which is pretty significant. I think the record gets obviously the name on the wall, but it's not to say that someone who is the third fastest freshman swimming history is not like good. So we had a lot of those. Raina Sison, freshman, moved herself into seventh in the 100 backstroke and eighth in 200 backstroke all time. Anthony Giuseppetti, leading off the 8 free relay, was third all time in the 200 free. That relay was fourth, and then amongst all men's teams in history, and then the men's 200 medley and 400 free relays were both fifth all time, which is pretty sweet. Relays we just tracked the top 5, so cracking that top 5 is definitely tough to do.
I wonder where Andy would rank some of this year's performances, going from back to the Gallaudet meet now to present time. What do you think?
We've been good, compared to last year. Looking at F&M, the Franklin Marshall invite, which we went to last year, is the biggest comparison. Looking at our yardage kind of in between, we did way more this year. We did a lot more coming into this week. We definitely didn't rest as much, and we were hitting some pretty close to some of those times, which is cool. I calculated, we had about 68 individual swims. 35 of those were lifetime bests. That's about 51%. Kind of looking across the, who maybe swum only one best time or got a best time in a relay. Talking about like lifetime bests, we were at like 92%. That someone got at least one lifetime best in something. Some people, might have been a second or half second off in a few events, but then like got one thing. So almost the entire team. And then talking about season best times, looking at all the swims again, we're at about 97% season best, which is really really high. It's like almost perfect. There's always going to be a couple, weird swims, especially when we have like, geez, including relays. I haven't added up all the exact number. We just kind of look at relay takeoffs and stuff, but we're looking at a few hundred swims on the weekend. It is pretty awesome. I think compared to where we're Gallaudet, Chatham, these kind of places. I think those are pretty good meets, but it's amazing to see what we've been able to do on a short rest, and we're gonna taper really really good come February.
Looking at some individuals, first on the women's side, junior Megan Hendershot had three top 20 finishes. She finished 18th in the 1650, 19th in the 200-yard free relay, and 19th in the 400-yard free relay. She's been one that's been significantly improving since the beginning of the season, even going back to last year. Talk about her progression.
Yeah, she's been really impressive this year. I think she made the decision last year after conference that she didn't swim all that well. She kind of made the decision like, hey, I'm going to be better. I'm going to make an attitude shift. I'm going to make a change. And she's seen the result of it. I think it's really awesome when kids can kind of do that and recognize that on their own. And, we're seeing it. She was kind of dissatisfied with her 500. I really liked it. And she got lifetime best in the mile, lifetime best in the 4 a.m. It was pretty awesome to kind of see her come around, bounce back from that 500, which was, again, from a coaching perspective, I thought it was a good race. She didn't necessarily think so, but being able to bounce back from something that you perceive as maybe not that great is a tough thing to do, especially when it's the first race kind of kicking off the weekend, and she's been really impressing us.
How do you think some of her teammates can respond to Hendershot's kind of belief in herself and how she's been able to take it upon herself to improve? And how does that resonate, you think, with the other swimmers?
Well, I think it's a good model, and I think if a lot of other people kind of in that same boat. I don't want to only single out Hendershot. I think Aubrey Morris had a really great day one, and she was able to kind of keep things rolling up through her 400 free relay. She was our top performer in our A relay there, and had a lifetime best in her, I think, butterfly in the 400 medley relay. Was very close in the individual event. And so she was having a pretty good attitude all weekend. And other people, some of our freshmen, Maya Wilson, Sydney Koval, sophomore transfer, had some bests, and they're just kind of keeping up that good attitude, which was nice. And then Raina, kind of mentioned she was very, very close. She was like a second off in a lot of her races. I think her 100 backstroke, she was like maybe half second off her personal best, but she had a good attitude. She actually did a really nice job of again, kind of in a medley relay, maybe a little off, making some adjustments. She did the individual swim later that night, and then like went like 2.5 seconds faster. So it's exciting to kind of see. I think good attitudes can be contagious, and negative attitudes can be contagious as well. So we need to kind of keep things flowing in the right direction.
The men had two standout performances, Anthony Giuseppetti and Luke Russell. Giuseppetti had, he finished his seven events finished in the top 10, and Russell had six. How reassuring is it to have not one, but two swimmers accomplish this, especially in such a wide field in every single event?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question. Because it's extremely unreassuring. I want to have like 15 people finishing in the top, eight of events here. But it is really good for them, especially Luke. He's kind of a kid who he definitely has some hard events. The sprints are popular. That they're like the 50, 100 free are like the always the most filled events. I think it's the events a lot of people do. And the competition is really, really tough, and he really excelled. And it's really reassuring that we kind of have him performing at a high level in our corner this year. And just Petty, he's rolling. pretty well. Very, very close to some lifetime bests in just about everything. Um, which is also it's really nice to kind of have him as someone who can throw down some of these more established programs, like Barton College, who's been D2 and for a long time, compared to us being D2 for like 4 months.
Yeah.
And some of these other programs, it's nice to kind of have some of that talent in place. But I don't know. I feel like that kind of negates some of our other performers, which were still really good. Quincy Page had a really incredible meet. Actually, his peers voted him swimmer of the meet. Um, he really threw down some big time races, which was great. Miles Henderson swam his like first ever mile. He did awesome. He had a really consistent 200 fly. It was exciting to watch. Kano Giuffreda um, did fantastic. I think he did 3 lifetime bests, and he's got a meet, a big Paralympic meet coming up in a couple weeks, which he is kind of using this to prime up for a little bit. I think he's doing the 1500-meter race. He'd obviously did the 1650-yard race at this meet, so it was really a reassuring step in the right direction for a lot of these kids.
For sure. And Randolph Macon was the last invitational before going against 1 or 2 team meets the rest of the year, and the next one being next week. Given that we have the holiday coming up, how much rest are you going to allow your swimmers going before re-entering conference play?
I mean, we'll practice, Monday, today and tomorrow, and then, pretty much be off for Thanksgiving. I think it's okay to have a couple days off. It's been a long season, especially as some of these kids are adjusting to Division III. Thanksgiving was also so late that we basically had another extra week, where we kind of didn't before. We used to kind of this being a week early, and then that combined with starting a little bit earlier with D2. We're almost like 3.5, 4 weeks longer than these kids have been used to, and that's significant in the world of swimming. I think taking a couple days off is perfectly fine. I've kind of told them, they can swim at home. If they practice with their club teams, with their high school teams, they can only get better. You're never going to get worse by going to practice or trying to get some fitness. But I'm not necessarily all that worried about us just hammering it out this week. I think we need a mental and physical break and be fine, and then we'll pick things back up for about 2 weeks. We're not gonna really worry about Davis and Elkins or California of Pennsylvania, which we're swimming in a double dual meet December 7th. We're not doing any kind of special rest or any kind of special treatment for that. We're just gonna swim through that, and then we'll kind of be off for finals week and pick things back up with our training trip.
Anything else you want to add?
There's just some other standout performers, kind of who maybe didn't shine in the rankings, who just did really well. Nate Bowman had 3 lifetime bests. Jacob Tantala had 2 lifetime bests. It was really awesome. I think I mentioned Maya Wilson doing really well. I don't know. It's hard to even talk about because everybody did so great. Gabby Thompson in the 200 IM, the lifetime best. I think she said it's been since she was like 16 or 15 years old since she had a lifetime best in that race. So that was really exciting to see. And then she actually threw down in some relays. Is a really important factor for us, which was pretty awesome to kind of watch her progress. So. I want to give shout outs to everybody. Oh, Sawyer Conklin, so he had a lifetime best in the mile, which is better than he was at the conference meet. He was like an 18:40, and then last year at F&M he was like a 18 minutes, and then a conference he was like a 17:40, and then he did a 17:35 this weekend. It's like whoa, it's a kid who was working pretty hard. I was very impressed. I was really happy about this weekend, and I'm sure there's some people that I missed out there, and I think a lot of the team will listen to this and be like, "God, you missed me." Everybody did good. Very excited, but those definitely the stand-up people that kind of rise to my brain as my first assessment of the weekend.
For sure, and hopefully that success can continue in future meets, including
Yeah.
next week against Cal and Davis and Elkins.
Absolutely.
All right,
So,
Coach. Thank you for your time. Happy Thanksgiving.
absolutely. Eat some turkey. I always give a shout out to my fiance Sarah and her cat Missy. We're spending Thanksgiving together, home with the folks here, and we're gonna, hopefully not get too fat. That's always the goal. But thanks for having me, and to all your listeners out there, be safe and go Bobcats.